what I need. And so I took it with some trepidation, and of course, Jamaican women being Jamaican women, a couple of them told me what they thought about this idea. Mind you, when I went to Barbados, the same thing happened. A couple of Barbadian women told
So
me
we're
what they
more
thought
similar
about
than we think.
thought about the idea of setting up the WAN program as well. How come the university appoints you to this kind of job? I said, well, it so happens that WAN is here because I am here, so it's the other way around. Anyway, all of that is to say that, as Rhoda said, that she was fortunate to be around in the
70s.
70s. I was fortunate to be around in the 50s because that was just before independence, in the 60s. And I really think that that thing about the moment is important. I mean, the context, the things that we were able to do then, we're not able to do now. The things that inspired us then are not present now. And I think that's very important to remember. But I don't remember actually talking to Rhoda at the Fairhome Hotel about writing a paper. So that's
okay.
why I know.
She remembers.
I know that this is great because
Yes.
I heard about, well, first of all, I started WAN, and we were extramural. We chose to be there, not in teaching, not in research. When I got to Barbados in '78, I heard about Joycelin and this incredible work that they were doing on this Women in the Caribbean project. And I made sure that Joycelin Massiah was on my advisory committee for WAN. I hope you remember that one.
Well,
because I was coming in from kind of left field with no credentials whatsoever. I had no doctorate. But I was setting up this program within the university's extramural department. And I'd heard, and I wanted to, I thought it was important for the university to have a program of teaching. We were not doing that. We were outside. We were doing a lot of teaching, but non-formal education and
advocacy.
And less advocacy, but a lot of teaching in the beginning,
Which
but
is a part
using
of
different
advocacy.
methodologies.
Yeah.
No, actually, well,
Yeah.
we'll talk about it after.
Yes.
And so I knew that, and so this, in my mind, I thought that we could have a meeting. As Rhoda said, WAN actually had a lot of scope for doing anything we wanted to do. At that time, there was money available. I worked with wonderful donors who said, Peggy, fantasize, anything you want to do, we will support. And so we had the money. And we had the freedom because the university wasn't paying too much attention to us either. And so I said, I'm going to have this meeting. I'm going to invite all the women that I know of who are teaching, focusing on women in their teaching in Guyana, Trinidad, Barbados, Jamaica. And Rhoda Reddock must be at this meeting. So I don't remember having asked you to do this until we actually strategized at this meeting. The other person who obviously had to be there was Joycelin. And Joycelin's story probably will tell you that
And I want to
what I
come
said
to
was also not quite correct.
I want to come to her now, in fact, because, but it's interesting you mentioned Lucille Mayer and your relationship with her and her bring you in, because she also, when she started her work, said that she had no feminist inclinations at the time, or none that she recognized. But at the end of the process of researching her book, she said nobody could have met these women in the pages of history and remain the same. So it's interesting how we become politicized and how we become feminists, maybe even reluctantly because of the work. So Joycelin...
There's one other thing I just have to say. I think I would not have got that job if I had been a feminist. I think that's one of the reasons that I got the job in Jamaica was because I had no politics about that. I was very conventional, married, well-controlled, middle class, and I wasn't rocking any boats, and I wasn't a threat to anybody, as I am now, I gather. So that was, you see, the moment.
I see. We're hearing a definition of feminism here, so you can take that to audience if you wish.
They did not, I did not, and they did not reckon with feminism.
Right.
That is what I see.
Yes.
That I was not expecting anything like this. I wanted a part-time job. They were not expecting anything too rough because I was properly married and controlled. But we didn't reckon with feminism. And so it's feminism that absolutely changes your life.
Yes. So, Joycelin, you have become, you and the IIC project have become one and the same in the minds of so many scholars who use the work. And I just wanted to ask you, what inspired you to become involved in the movement, and what do you think is the legacy of that IICP?
It was pure happenstance, I think. You pardon my throat. In 1976, I had an invitation from somebody who was called Hevila Sipalai.
No.
Yes?
Pull it up a little. Yeah.
That one. Hevila
Right, and-
Sipalai. Yes. Who was inviting me to do a study on family planning and female status in Barbados. Now, as some of you probably know, I'm a demographer, and so to do a study on family planning, I could do with my eyes closed, because of the work that I'd been doing, in demography in the years before. But this term, the status of women, bothered me a lot because I wasn't too sure first what it meant and how did you connect it to family planning. So I asked around on campuses about anybody who was doing work in this area. Nobody was doing anything. Stuff started to come across my desk because at the time I was heading up the KFIL campus of the ISER, and so all kinds of stuff was coming across my desk. And more these documents were referring to the status of women. I declined the invitation, but started rounding up some people to find out, if you're interested in something like this, let us meet together and figure out what it means and what can we do about it in this region in terms of research. I also began looking back at some of the work that I had done and my colleagues in demography had done. And although we knew a lot about fertility rates, although we knew a lot about male-female differentials in a number of areas, in employment, in education, in occupational status and all of this, we didn't really know much about the women themselves. We just knew what their fertility rates were. And so it was in the discussion, that small group discussion, there were about 5 of us who met, that we decided that the project was necessary and we needed to figure out how best to do a project which did a number of things. It would not become stuck in the structural functional theory that was prevalent at the time. It would not become stuck in any theory, any preconceived theory. We just wanted to get at what the women felt about their own lives, what proposals they had for improving their lives, and how could we use their thoughts in order to help develop policy which could help the policymakers do whatever policymakers do. And that is how really it started. It was just pure happenstance. But there were connections. Because whilst we were struggling with that, Rhoda was busy. I did not know Rhoda. Rhoda was busy in the ISS, persuading them that it was time for them to extend their work with women from developing countries into the Caribbean. So when we sent up a proposal, Rhoda was the only person that they had there who knew anything about the Caribbean, and she was the person who they gave the proposal to do an assessment. So Rhoda not only did the assessment,